Right. In case you've been living under a rock for the past 24, 48 hours-ish, or 36 hours, things have been happening in the Middle East. Things have been happening. The Ayatollah Khamenei is dead. And that has been confirmed by Iranian state media. Nothing ever happens. Not this time, Megalum. Welcome in, but not this time. Happenings in my Chudtopia banned. Things have happened. Nothing ever happens until something happens. Just like it works until it doesn't. This from The Atlantic. I have agreed to talk, the headline. Trump tells The Atlantic Iranian leaders want to resume negotiations. One day after launching strikes on Iran that killed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and embroiled the region in war, President Trump told me this morning, me being the author Michael Schutter, that the country's new leadership wants to talk with him, and he plans to do so. Trump told him in a phone call from Mar-a-Lago shortly before 9:30 a.m., "They want to talk. I've agreed to talk, so I'll be talking to them. They should have done it sooner. Should have given what was very practical, easy to do sooner. They waited too long, and then they got bombed. Now they go bye-bye." Asked whether his conversation with the Iranians would happen today or tomorrow, Trump responded, "I can't tell you that." He noted that some of the Iranians involved in negotiations in recent weeks were no longer alive. "Most of these people are gone. Some of these people we were dealing with are gone. That was a big hit. They should have done it sooner, Michael. They could have made a deal. They could have done it sooner. They played too cute. So I'm just like, get him out of here. Get him out of here permanently." To Ali Khamenei, rest in peace, you won't be missed. Indeed, Hayato, welcome in. Good to see you. Yesterday morning, in a video posted on social media, Trump called on the people of Iran to rise up against the current regime once the bombing campaign ended. "Now you got a president who's giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. Now's the time. Seize control of your destiny. Unleash the prosperous, glorious future that's close within your reach. It's going to be huge. Huge." The author asked Trump whether he was willing to prolong the U.S. bombing campaign against Iran to support a popular uprising if one unfolds. He asked, will they continue to get support if it takes some time to overthrow the regime? Trump was non-committal. I mean, as well he should be. He said, "I have to look at the situation at the time it happens. Can't give an answer to that question." That's fair. The president also expressed confidence a successful uprising was coming, noting the signs of celebration in the streets of Iran and supportive gatherings of expatriate Iranians in New York and Los Angeles. He said, "That's going to happen. You're seeing that. I think it's going to happen. A lot of people are extremely happy over there and in Los Angeles and many other places. In addition to pro-regime celebrations in several major cities, large anti-war protests have also been held, many of them just a few blocks away." Trump told me he was pleased with the Iranian people's reaction so far, knowing it's very dangerous, knowing I've told everyone to stay in place. I think it's a very dangerous place right now. People over there are shouting in the streets with happiness, but at the same time there's a lot of bombs coming down. For years, the U.S. intelligence community has tracked and disrupted Iranian-led assassination plots against U.S. officials, including Trump, inside the United States. I asked him whether he had any indication of renewed Iranian threats against the U.S. homeland since the start of the attack. He said, "I don't want to tell you that." Which leads me to believe that possible renewed threat. It's not necessarily a complete and total denial, but one of the rules of realpolitik, never believe anything until it's been officially denied. So his answer tells me, yes, there was some sort of renewed threat, either against him or against the United States. Soon after our conversation, U.S. military officials announced the 3 U.S. service members were killed in the operation, 5 more seriously wounded, the first known American casualties of the campaign. Trump told me he expects the attack on Iran will not disrupt Republican efforts before this fall's midterm elections to convince voters that his administration is forced in delivering economic benefits for the country. He told me, "We have the greatest economy we've ever had. The word isn't out because people like you don't write about it properly, but the economy is ready to go through the roof. Already is in many cases. Raiders, welcome in. Damien Demore, hello, hello. How was your stream? Raiders, if it's your first time here, I'm Lord Rexworth. I'm an English nobleman, Vtuber. And we are just getting started here with news and with video reacts. Let's see. Playing D&D. How was the latest session of D&D? Everyone, please go follow Damien Demore. Wonderful streamer. Excellent collab partner. Along with Elijah Knightley. And any other guests that we might have with us on occasion. Though sometimes we have even more fun when it's just us three lads. Good, almost killed an NPC with corrosive grasp. Corrosive grasp. Sounds very deadly. Sounds very acidic. I like it. Well, yes, raiders, if you need a raid and run, totally understand. Otherwise, do feel free to exercise the normal after-stream care. Get up and stretch. Grab something to eat. Something to drink. That sort of thing. Stay hydrated out there. Does acid damage via touch. My hunch was correct. But yes, talking about the latest developments with Iran. Trump argued the attack's effect on oil markets, which reopened tonight, would likely be less disruptive on American pocketbooks than some analysts had predicted, given the early success of the operation. He told me this could have been a huge price increase with respect to oil if things went wrong, so we'll see what happens. Before pivoting back to his decision to attack Iran for the second time since June. He said people have wanted to do it for 47 years. They've killed people for 47 years. Now it's reversed on them. I will say this, chat. Tragic that we lost 3 American service members in the operation. 5 more seriously wounded. That being said, 3 killed, 5 injured versus thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands killed in some sort of large-scale ground war. I'd say the Americans are doing rather well, and they've handled this fairly well. And I'm sure that they accounted for this. Again, nothing we say can bring back those we lost, or take back what's been done in terms of injuries to 5 service members. But still, these are, as cold as it sounds, I'm sure many of the top brass in the American military, in the War Department, the Joint Chiefs, would call that an acceptable loss, even stellar performance by service members. I mean, the fact that we lost no one with the Venezuela operation that was nothing short of a miracle. Remember to honor and pay respect to those who lost their lives to make this happen. Indeed, Waka, indeed. But yes, words from the President of the United States talking to the Atlantic magazine of all places. The pull quote, pointed out by Citizen Free Press, most of those people are gone. Some of the people we were dealing with are gone, because that was a big hit. They should have done it sooner. They could have made a deal. They should have done it sooner. They played too cute. It almost reminds me of this sort of prologue conversation. I can probably pull it up on YouTube somewhere. Let's see here. Those are all the cutscenes. Okay. Doesn't look like anybody has it on YouTube. Don't know if any of you have played the old game Soviet Strike. It came out for PlayStation 1, Sega Saturn. This was an old game back in the mid-90s. And it was very interesting. Most of it takes place across Russia and former Eastern Bloc countries. And there's this audio recording, sort of a prologue, showing the origins of the Strike Intel Agency. And there's this unnamed man, a civil servant by the name of the Security Czar. And he's sitting down with the then American President, Bill Clinton. And he says, here's how it's going to work, Mr. President. We'll let you handle the domestic agenda, all the touchy-feely stuff, but when it comes to national security interest, Strike will make all the hard decisions. There's a little bit of back and forth between the two. And the president, or a voice actor playing the part of the president, says, but I thought I was in charge. Your organization is undermining the chief executive. And the security czar cuts him off and says, sir, I am just here to explain how things work. If you don't want to play ball, I'm sure the vice president will. We've had to deal with that very unpleasant situation before. And that's the end of it. I am very much reminded of that scene with that particular bit of dialogue from the current American president. Some of the people we're dealing with are gone. They should have done it sooner. Could have made a deal. They played too cute. Trump explained to them how things are going to work. They didn't want to play ball. So both the Americans and the Israelis, waited for an opportunity when all of the leadership was gathering together, along with the supreme leader, the Ayatollah, and they struck that particular target. And in one swift stroke, they decapitated the leadership of Iran. They did not want to play ball. So they were eliminated. And this will probably keep going on until someone decides, okay, let's make a deal. Exile Sky, welcome in. Play stupid games when stupid prizes tried to warn you. Indeed. Indeed. This sent a very clear message that both the Americans and the Israelis are not fucking around anymore. Let's see. Quote from the Israeli Prime Minister. Let's see. Yeah, there's a video here from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Let me go ahead and turn on browser audio here. He is speaking in Hebrew. So for those of you who are audio only bros, I will read off the subtitles to you. It'll sound like a real-time translation. Just finished a meeting with the defense minister, the chief of staff, and the head of the Mossad. Gave instructions to continue the campaign. Yesterday, we eliminated the dictator Khamenei. Along with him, we eliminated dozens of senior regime officials. Our forces are now striking at the heart of Tehran with growing intensity. And this will only intensify further in the coming days. And yet these are painful days. Yesterday in Tel Aviv, and now in Beit Shemesh, we lost precious people. My heart goes out to the families, and I send on behalf of all of you, citizens of Israel, wishes for recovery to the wounded. We are in a campaign in which we are bringing the full force of the IDF like never before to ensure our existence and our future, but we are also... Hold on. He's going too fast. But we are also bringing to this campaign the support of the United States, my friend, President of the United States Donald Trump, the US military, and this combination of forces enables us to do what I have hoped to do for 40 years, to strike the terror regime a crushing blow. This is what I promised, and this is what we will do. Translation in the video ends. So, the words from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. An earlier tweet, this is from yesterday, this is late last night, on Truth Social, from President Trump, and yes, I do have an account on Truth Social, at Lord Rexworth, if you want to give me a follow over there. Iran just stated they're going to hit very hard today, harder than they have ever hit before. They better not do that, however, because if they do, we'll hit them with a force that's never been seen before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Tel Aviv impressed, yes. I think we're all fairly impressed with the swiftness of all of this. I've got a few more tweets that we're going to go through and a few articles, and then we'll get over to video reacts. Walter Kurt, in preparation for the next "he died like a dog" speech, I think this is appropriate. Let's see what we have here. This looks like something from a stand-up comedian.
Trump gave what I think was probably one of the greatest speeches of world leaders given. You know, it's got to be up there with like Churchill, Gettysburg Address. Anyway, for real though, it was my favorite speech I've ever seen a president give. It was the night the United States killed the leader of ISIS. Trump comes out of the Situation Room at like midnight in the White House, and he walks down that fucking tunnel like and gives a press conference like he's giving a post-game NBA just killed a guy press conference. He walks up in front of the entire world at midnight and just goes, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog.
We just said, get him out of here. Too dangerous to be kept alive. Get him out of here.
I didn't change one word of that. That's what he opened with. And then he did 40 minutes. The speech is 40 minutes. For no reason. It wasn't a prepared speech. He freestyled 40 straight. Not even a speech,
impressive.
Just mean shit talk for 40. The meanest shit talk you've ever heard in front of the whole world. Abu. We could hear him crying. I said, Abu, don't cry. Abu. Let me tell you something. Abu cried. He cried quite a bit. I wouldn't have cried. Cry baby Baghdadi. That's what we were all calling it. Look. I love everything about that speech. I love it. I love thinking about Trump in the Situation Room, surrounded by generals watching watching special forces, watching those cocksucking Navy SEALs.
Careful, steady on.
If I was in there, I'd be like, get out of there, Abu, run. No, I love thinking about Trump in the Situation Room, watching a live military operation. He's the only dude in the room that wasn't military. He must have been the only dude watching it that was like, oh! Like, you could tell he's never seen it before by the fucking speech. The speech sounded like a guy just trying to tell you some shit he saw. A lot of guys would knock on the front door, not these guys, not our
He's
guys.
got a very good impression of
Not
Trump,
our guys.
I
Our
must say.
guys went through the wall. They blew up his wall. And they used dogs. Beautiful dogs. Beautiful dogs is the funniest detail It's true. They actually did use, it was the Army Rangers and they used dogs because they were afraid al-Baghdadi was going to be wearing a suicide vest, so they killed him with dogs and a robot. And then made fun of him for crying. It's like, dude, let that guy cry. That's the scariest death I've ever heard of. That dude was laying in his bed in the middle of the night, his wall exploded.
I mean, think about it. If that's the way you're going to go out, you would probably be crying too. You would probably be crying, and you would probably have shot yourself. I mean, either before or after, because that's how the human body works, is you void your bowels. That's one of the ways people can kind of tell, yeah, you're dead. So, yeah, crying, voiding your bowels, probably pissing yourself. It's no joke. When the Americans blow a hole in your wall, you've had it. You're done. You're finished, mate. Trump is an anchor bean. It's wild how many of us are able to imitate his voice. How's that possible? This is fun. And, you know, he's one of those people that, as much as he can make it all about him in true boomer fashion, and as much as he does admittedly have some narcissistic tendencies, he also doesn't mind the imitations. He doesn't mind people mimicking him. He seems to take it all in good humor. So that's one really great thing about him, is that he loves the impressions. He doesn't mind that, and he can give just as good as he can get. He's not one who's so full of himself and so stuffy that he can't be self-deprecating and make some jokes about himself and be able to listen to other people making jokes about him. I mean, actual good, honest jokes, not just the vicious stuff that comes out of Hollywood these days. Shane Gillis is the best impression of Trump ever. I believe this is who we're watching here. Shane Gillis. He's good. He's good. They didn't give him Teflon Don nickname for nothing. That's true. That's very true. He's a tough man. He can take it. Lord knows, after everything we've seen since they tried to absolutely destroy him from 2020 onward, and they just couldn't do it. Yeah, he's earned the title of Teflon Don.
Fucking 10 dogs and a robot broke into. Dude, 10 dogs wearing helmets and goggles.
That's the new face of war these days, is the dogs, the drones, and the robots. That's the way we're fighting wars these days. As we'll see in just a moment with the fallout from everything that happened with everything that happened in Iran. Let's see. A video from Montreal, Canada. Crowd was even bigger than this when news of Mousavi's death came. Everyone was shedding tears of joy. This from a member of the Persian Diaspora in Canada. Quick 30-second video. Let's take a look at this. That's the old Iranian flag that they're flying. That is incredible. There's no anger in that crowd. That's just pure joy. Pure joy and relief. There's some very bad people have been taken out by the Americans and the Israelis. Trump has seen everything, including a near deletion attempt. Nothing phases him. That's true. He survived multiple assassination attempts now. At some point, you'd think that these ungodly idiots would just give up. But no, they persist. Let's see. This is video from Galeh Dar in Fars province in Iran. Video smuggled out of Iran, though it might be easier than ever now. I believe some people still have those Starlink access nodes that Elon airdropped and smuggled in. But yes, over here in the background we see a sort of carve-out statue to the Ayatollah Khomeini. And in 30 seconds... Bring the audio down on this one. And down it goes! That is a shout of cathartic release. That is the shout of cathartic release right there, chat. That is excellent. This coming to us from Visegrad24. Fairly reliable source throughout all of this. They are admittedly and openly biased, pro-Israeli, pro-Ukraine, anti-Russia, but their coverage, despite admitted biases, which, I mean, let's be real, all sources have their biases. But they've been doing a good job lately, especially bringing good video, good coverage of things happening around the world, especially to people on X. Let's see. Iran International English. Tear gas fired at Iraqi protesters near Baghdad's Green Zone, where the U.S. Embassy is located, as they rallied on Sunday to condemn the killing of Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Let's watch this. You can hear the pure emotion in his voice. You really can. He's just like, at long last, he's gone. Power abhors a vacuum. The matter now is that someone or some faction gains power that's worse or devolves it into a civil war. Libya was a debacle. It was. But, different sort of people pulling a gay op back then. New sheriff in town, for the most part anyway. And, yeah, I don't know. Really don't know. We'll see what happens. Hopefully those on the American and on the Israeli side have learned from the mistakes of the past. But yes, getting rid of Gaddafi was... that was a mistake. And all because he wanted a gold-backed dinar. It just seems like a horrible overreaction. Still have a lot of sympathizers in Iraq of the old regime in Iran. And that was what appeared to be a tear gas cartridge, someone holding in their bare hands. I warn you, if I go down, Europe will be flooded with millions of blacks, Colonel Gaddafi a few days before his death. He wasn't wrong. Black and brown. They certainly flooded Europe. And the entire continent has not been the same since. In fact, it's been worse off. Let's see another angle. This from Global Military Info. Individuals associated with Irani-aligned armed factions within Iraq are attempting to reach the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Yeah, good fucking luck with that. Even if you manage to breach the gates, they'll be mowed down in an instant. And deservedly so. That's right, get back, you heathens. We'll get to this story in just a moment. This is, But yes, from U.S. Central Command to CENTCOM, Dateline, Tampa, Florida. As of 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, March 1st, 3 U.S. service members have been killed in action, 5 seriously wounded as part of Operation Epic Fury. Several others sustained minor shrapnel injuries and concussions, and are in the process of being returned to duty. Major combat operations continue. Our response effort is ongoing. The situation is fluid, so out of respect for the families, we'll withhold additional information, including the identities of our fallen warriors, until 24 hours after the next of kin have been notified. Some people have been making fun of the operation's title, Epic Fury. Some have called it a bit cringe. Personally, though, I suppose it's just the Englishman in me talking, could have done without the epic part, Operation Fury. That would have been sufficient, but you know what? Sometimes you need a catchy title to rally the troops. Let's see, also from CENTCOM. Iranian's IRGC claims to have struck the USS Abraham Lincoln with ballistic missiles. That has turned out to be a lie. The Lincoln was not hit. Missiles launched did not even come close. The Lincoln continues to launch aircraft in support of CENTCOM's relentless campaign to defend the American people by eliminating threats from the Iranian regime. Let's see. Yes, former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He was amongst the people eliminated in the strike by the Americans and Israelis. His house was reportedly attacked and destroyed. He apparently was in the house at the time. So the house has been blown to smithereens, along with Ahmadinejad. Sounds like the deaths were due to a ballistic missile, a drone strike at a base. Yes, we have heard that at least one of them struck a base somewhere. But it was epic, though, lol. That's true. This is pretty epic. This turned out to be fairly epic. Maybe in comparison to other operations, comparison to other world events like the fall of the Soviet Union, the armistice of the First World War, the end of the Second World War. Maybe not quite as big and flashy as those, but nevertheless, quite significant. Whoopsie indeed, Hayato. Whoopsie indeed. Let's see. Oh. Bloody flashbang. Yes. More information. This from the Jerusalem Post. No. Obviously, the Israelis are going to be creaming themselves over this sort of thing, so be aware of the source, chat, the Jerusalem Post. Former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad killed in Israeli-US strikes, according to a report. He served as the president of Iran from 2005 till 2013. He always tried to come off as a sort of harmless little man, humble functionary. But truth of the matter is he was a fairly dangerous individual. Living testament to the concept of the banality of evil. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who served as Iranian president from 2005 to 2013, killed in an Israeli-US airstrike, according to the Iranian Labour News Agency on Sunday. The strike hit Ahmadinejad's residence in Narnak in northeast Tehran, the capital of Iran, killing him and several of his bodyguards. The strike in Narnak likely occurred late on Saturday, according to international media reports. Before becoming president, he served as the Ardabil province governor and Tehran mayor. After his 2 terms in office, he was appointed by then Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei to the Expediency Discernment Council, 48-member advisory council to the office of the Supreme Leader. That council, I believe, was what met over the weekend, and when its location was learned, the strike was conducted, and all of the members of this council, including this bloke here, were killed in one swift stroke. Total decapitation. This from the New York Times. The headline: the CIA helped pinpoint a gathering of Iranian leaders. Then Israel struck. The killing of Iran's supreme leader and other top Iranian officials come after close intelligence sharing between the United States and Israel, according to people familiar with the operation. The United States and Israel have shared intelligence with each other for a long time. Certain members of the IDF pretty much have carte blanche access to the Pentagon, although that sharing and that relationship does appear to be a bit one-sided, because it's not like US officials can do the same over in Israel. Shortly before the US and Israel were poised to launch an attack on Iran, the CIA zeroed in on the location of perhaps the most important target, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the country's supreme leader. The CIA had been tracking the Ayatollah for months, gaining more confidence about his locations and patterns, according to people familiar with the operation. Then the agency learned that a meeting of top Iranian officials would take place on Saturday morning at a leadership compound in the heart of Tehran. Most critically, the CIA learned the supreme leader would be at the site. The United States and Israel decided to adjust the timing of their attack, in part to take advantage of the new intelligence, and that's according to officials with knowledge of the decisions. The information provided a window of opportunity for the two countries to achieve a critical early victory: the elimination of top Iranian officials and the killing of the Ayatollah. The remarkably swift removal of Iran's supreme leader reflected the close coordination and intelligence sharing between the United States and Israel in the run-up to the attack, and the deep intelligence the countries had developed on Iranian leadership, especially in the wake of last year's 12-day war. The operation also showed the failure of Iran's leaders to take adequate precautions to avoid exposing themselves at a time where both Israel and the US sent clear signals they were preparing for war. The CIA passed its intelligence, which offered high fidelity on the Ayatollah's position, to Israel, according to people briefed on the intelligence. They and others who shared details about the operation spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive intelligence and military planning. They do this quite a bit with major legacy outlets like the New York Times and Washington Post. The United States and Israeli governments, which had originally planned to launch a strike at night under the cover of darkness, made the decision to adjust the timing to take advantage of the information about the gathering of the government at the government compound in Tehran Saturday morning. Israel, using US intelligence and its own, would execute an operation it had been planning for months, the targeted killing of Iran's senior leaders. Rumors have been swirling that they were planning something like this, and these rumors have been swirling for months now. Maybe even longer. The leaders were set to meet where the offices of the Iranian presidency, the supreme leader, and Iran's National Security Council were located. Israel had determined the gathering would include top Iranian defense officials, including Mohammad Pakpour, the Commander-in-Chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, or IRGC, Aziz Nasirzadeh, the Minister of Defense, Admiral Ali Shamkhani, head of the Military Council, Sayed Majid Musavi, the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force, Mohammad Shirazi, the Deputy Intelligence Minister, and others. The operation began around 6 a.m. in Israel as fighter jets took off from their bases, The strike required relatively few aircraft, but they were armed with long-range, highly accurate munitions. 2 hours, 5 minutes after the jets took off, at around 9:40 a.m. in Tehran, the long-range missiles struck the compound. At the time of the strike, senior Iranian national security officials were in one building at the compound. Mr. Khamenei was in another nearby building. This morning's strike was carried out simultaneously at several locations in Tehran, in one of which senior figures of Iran's political security echelon had gathered. That's according to an Israeli defense official writing in a message reviewed by the New York Times. The official said despite Iranian preparations for war, Israel managed to achieve tactical surprise with its attack on the compound. The White House and the CIA declined to comment. On Sunday, Iran's state news agency, the IRNA, confirmed the deaths of two high-level military leaders Israel said it had killed on Saturday, Rear Admiral Shamkhani and Major General Pakpour. People briefed on the operation described it as a product of good intelligence and months of preparations. Last June, with planning underway to strike Iran's nuclear targets, President Trump asserted the United States knew where Ayatollah Khamenei was hiding and could have killed him. He even made a tweet about that. That intelligence, a former U.S. official said, was based on the same network that the United States relied on Saturday. Since then, the information the United States has been able to gather has only improved. That's according to a former official and others briefed on the intelligence. During that 12-day war, the United States learned even more about how the Supreme Leader and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps communicated and moved while under pressure. The United States used that knowledge to hone its ability to track the Ayatollah and predict his movements. I wonder if AI or any sort of sophisticated computer analysis had anything to do with that. Would be interesting if that were true. The United States and Israel had also gathered specifics about the locations of key Iranian intelligence officers. In follow-on strikes after the attack on the leadership compound Saturday, locations where intelligence leaders were staying were hit, according to people familiar with the operation. Highly likely, yeah, I think so, Hayato. I think there's a reason that there's government contracts involved with artificial intelligence. And who knows? Maybe that recent announcement about the American government severing any sort of contracts or relations with some AI developer of some sort. Can't remember the name of it. I wonder if that has something to do with all this. Would be interesting if it were. In follow-on strikes after the attack on the leadership compound Saturday, locations where intelligence leaders were staying were hit, according to people familiar with the operation. Iran's top intelligence officer escaped, but senior ranks of Iran's intelligence agencies were decimated, according to people briefed on the operation. So the top spy is still on the lam, as it were. But many of his counterparts are dead. No exaggeration, chat. This is a decapitation of the Iranian regime. They did not want to play ball, so the Americans and the Israelis are eliminating people who rise to the top until someone is willing to do business with them. Let's see, another... Let's see, this from Caliber. I think that's just quoting the New York Times article, so we'll go ahead and close that out. Good God. Force Dark. Stop flashbanging us. Let's see, also quoting the New York Times. More confirmation, 3 U.S. forces killed, several critically injured in the Iran war. I don't know if we can go so far as to call this a war. Special operation, perhaps, but hardly a war at this point. Let's see. Iran International English. Group of Iranians living in Denmark were seen dancing and celebrating in the city of Aalborg on Sunday after the death of Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. A video sent to Iran international shows. The Persian diaspora is practically everywhere, chat. Some areas it's larger than others. Cheers. Oh, I see they're drinking Heineken. Which are saying something. Ethnically Persian, presumably Islamic in faith, consuming alcohol, which is considered haram and against strict Islamic law. But then again, after everything the Iranians have been through, put yourself in their position. You could use a fucking drink too. Imagine that regrettable. Hopefully there'll be no other Western losses. Yes, that's true. Look, any loss is going to be tragic. To a certain extent, unacceptable. But the military always plans for both the best and especially the worst case scenarios. It could have been a lot worse. Only 3 lives lost. Only 5 seriously injured. Those are fairly decent numbers by any standard with any military in the world. Speaking of flashbangs, I wonder when Fillion's going to be back. I don't know. I guess it depends on when she can get a passport and all of the issues with re-entry resolved. We joke, of course. We don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, chat. But we do pray she's alright and that she returns to streaming soon. The snackers miss their favorite Filipino streamer. She was taken by ice. I'm joking. Yes. We all know the joke by now. Hope she's doing fine. I hope so too. I have a feeling she is. Who knows? Maybe we'll be hearing from her soon enough. Let's see. I am not logged into Instagram, so we're not going to look at that. The aftermath of an Iranian rocket attack on an Israeli home. Yeah. The IRGC tried to do some retaliatory measures of some kind. I suppose the most accurate description of them could be taking pot shots at best. It's been nothing so overwhelming as it could possibly have been, which I suppose speaks to the overall impotency of the IRGC, of the Iranian military capabilities, especially once you sort of cut off the head of the snake. But make no mistake, they were still a threat to the Americans and to other Western powers. They were still a threat. The Iranian people were essentially living under occupation by people who are absolute tyrants. And it was time for them to go. It's just that simple. And been seeing a lot of back and forth on X, especially amongst accounts that I follow. We can probably pull up a few of those. Oh, this is interesting. Massive scale protests erupting in Brazil, demanding President Lula resign. Protesters accuse his government of rampant corruption, crushing free speech, and growing authoritarianism. The world has had enough of dictatorships. That's incredible. Unconfirmed reports the new Ayatollah has also been killed in an airstrike. Again, unconfirmed, but Khamenei's successor also killed in an airstrike. Good for them. I hope they get what they want. I do too. What happened to their previous president is just absolutely unforgivable. What's happening in their country right now is... the Brazilians deserve better. They really do. It didn't last even 24 hours, I know, right? Saw a post there, they are saying Trump is conquering the world because Congress won't let him do anything at home. Got to make himself useful somehow. But then again, I say, what happened to you can just do things? I mean, that's what we've seen with Venezuela, that's what we've seen with Iran. Why not take some of that moxie, that boldness, and apply it to the home front? I mean, honestly, if I were on the left or in the Democrat Party, any reasonable, rational person would be shitting themselves right now. But the left is no longer comprised of reasonable, rational people. Anyways, I was going to look for something. I completely forgot what it was that I was going to look at. Oh, right. Let's do this first. Okay, got that in a tab. One of my Oshis, the Foxu, Kersha Verstal. Oh, here's the one you were talking about, sure. And Kersha responding, how many more foreign dictators have to get yoinked before judges stop blocking deportations? I honestly think he's trying to stay within the red tape just to prove a point because he's salty about people trying to paint him as a criminal, and I think it's really dumb. He might be onto something, sure. Again, I say, what happened to you can just do things? You know, even with the Supreme Court, he had a perfect opportunity to have his Andrew Jackson moment where he could say, John Roberts has made his decision, now let him try to enforce it. Bring back classical liberal lefts who could have a conversation with them and were not crazy. I don't think any of those exist anymore, Waka. And if they do exist, they're all on the right now. Whatever few are left. Most of those are becoming hard right and more radicalized by the day because they realize that so much of classical liberalism requires a high trust society, requires a certain ethnic majority that basically started all of classical liberalism. You kind of need to have a lot of other things before you can enjoy the privilege of classical liberalism. And when you don't have those things, when all those things are taken away, you don't really have that anymore. And it says something that if all of those other things don't really can be just taken away through something as simple as immigration policy, through subversive communist action, and through just simple breeding, and the creation of new ethnic voting blocks, you have to sort of wonder, classical liberalism, is it all just a myth? You tend to think, yeah, maybe it was. Maybe it was just imaginary, a figment of our imagination all along. Very true, notice that as well, yeah. John Schwepp, we are at war. The anime girl avatars must be stopped, no mercy. And then 5 hours ago, anime PFPs and middle-aged women combined to make a formidable X-coalition. I salute your courage and bravery. Claiming you cannot win this war, you're outmanned, outgunned. The children will be protected from your weird furry shit. No, John, you're thrashing at the shadows on your wall because you want mass surveillance via online ID. I don't think you realize how out of touch you actually are. They don't. He's a pretentious old man playing at running the world, and the world left him behind long ago. We are the future. This is good. Oh, I thought this was interesting from Leading Report, and Kirsche quote tweeting the big Alex Jones face. Russian President Vladimir Putin now willing to accept U.S. security guarantees, says Ukraine per the Sunday Times. We got the Russians' attention, didn't we, chat? From Razorfist, the federal judge has overturned the Iranian defense minister's death. Oh, but this was the one. Oh, that's cute. I like that. This was the one. Question about Iran. The people of Iran were against the current regime, protested all over the whole country. The regime started mass killing protesters. How are some turning the US strike into a doing Israel's bidding thing when the Iranian people want regime change? This caused some people to get a bit hot under the collar, we'll say. Who did not see that coming? I know, right? Some people got a bit hot under the collar. Some people had their criticisms of it. I'm not going to criticize too much certain people's takes. I think some people are being panicans about all of this. I'm trying as best I can to not be so grug-brained or light-switch-brained about things and take a very nuanced position on all of this. By asking certain questions of, is it in the best interest of the United States and the West to take out the Ayatollah Khomeini and the Iranian regime? I think most people would say yes. Pardon me, they did pose a threat. We can debate all day long about how big of a threat they were. The fact remains they were a threat. I think the intelligence is fairly reliable that Iran has wanted to commit acts of terrorism against Americans and against Europeans and other Westerners. We know from fairly reliable intelligence that they have attempted repeatedly to assassinate heads of state, particularly American presidents. You can only go on tolerating that for so long before you finally decide, you know what, we just need to eliminate the threat. They're going to keep coming at us. We're going to have to cut off the head of the snake. And so that's what they did. Now, we have established, fair to say that it's in the Americans' interest to take out the Iranian regime. Is it also in Israel's interest? Yes. Fair to say, interests are aligned at this point. It is both in the Americans' interest and in the Israelis' interest to take out the Iranian regime. It's in the interest of the Iranian people, because many of them wanted regime change. I know one streamer in particular, I'm not going to call them out by name, was talking about how, well, there was a poll conducted, and a majority of people in Iran said, no, they don't want regime change. Okay. Never take polls at face value. Polls can be manipulated, oftentimes based on the question itself, to say whatever you want. It's sort of like the old story about the lies, damn lies, and there are statistics. You can have a poll saying whatever you want. I don't trust polls coming out of Iran of people, of it saying a majority of people, oh no, we don't want regime change. We like the Ayatollah. We want things to stay the same. Yeah, I just don't believe you at this point. Mainly because you're an authoritarian regime that has shown you're willing to open fire on protesters in your own country, kill potentially tens of thousands of your own people because they dared to speak out against your government. Yeah, given that's the prevailing attitude of an authoritarian government, we have to ask ourselves, do you really think people are going to answer that honestly? No, of course not. They're not going to answer that honestly. They're going to lie out their asses to save their own lives. You would do the same if you're in their position. So that kind of undercuts any argument that anyone may have had that, oh, well, the Iranian people didn't want regime change. No, I think it's fairly clear from what we've seen from footage in Iran and also footage around the world, in Europe, in Canada, of the Persian diaspora. These people wanted the Ayatollah and his regime gone. So the Americans and the Israelis, they did the Iranian people a favor there. It was the whole world's interest. I think so, Hayato. I know there are some people out there that really don't like Israel. They don't like the Israeli people. They don't like the Jewish people very much. And I grant you, I've got my own criticisms. I don't believe that any Western country, particularly the Americans or the British, need to be dragged into some sort of prolonged war that after a while seems to only benefit Israel, like what we saw with the global war on terrorism. I think in that case, Israel needs to just fight its own wars and do its own thing and leave us out of it, because it's not our monkeys and it's not our circus. That said, if something has interest aligning like this in the best interest of the Americans, in the best interest of Israel, in the best interest of the Iranian people, okay. An alliance of sorts, a joint operation, that is acceptable, especially if it's something that is very precision, very surgical, like what we've seen over the course of this weekend. I think that that is acceptable. The risks and the losses that the Americans have endured, 3 people killed, 5 injured, tragic, yes, but in the grand scheme of things, they are to be expected. These are the sort of losses that those in power can live with. Much more significant than that, they probably wouldn't. They probably would not be willing to commit to that sort of thing. If we accelerated 20 years into the future with no intervention in the timeline, Europeans would be celebrating the bombing of our Islamic governments. Not sure I quite understand, Kalergi. Maybe you left some words out or something like that. Not sure if you're referring to some sort of the slow creeping of Islam into Europe, perhaps. I don't know. Still waking up a bit. Still got a bit of streamer brain going on. Emptying out as many thoughts as I can to where my head is empty. They will be coming after us, and it will keep happening until we stop it. Yes. Persians feel the way Europeans will in another few decades. I think you may have a point there, Kalergi. There is a large growing sector of Islamists from Africa and from the Middle East in various European countries, in the United Kingdom, and elsewhere in the West. And they are a growing threat. You have the existential threats like Iran, but then you've also got the internal threats that still need to be dealt with. Demographics, destiny. Yes, demography is destiny. Regrettably, that is not unreasonable, as unless the demographics alter, our democracy will be our undoing, indeed. Eventually, democracy, as people like Lee Kuan Yew, may he rest in peace, noticed within Singapore, democracy really only works with monocultural societies. Multicultural societies, it just becomes ethnic voting blocks. And they all just end up voting for the best interest of their ethnicity. So diversity is no one's strength. And ultimately, as hard as it might be for some people to accept, so many people are going to have to go back. Because their presence is entirely foreign to where they're at now. Their ways are completely foreign. And so many of them have absolutely zero interest in integrating into the societies that they are guests in. Zatris had a good response to Kirsche. Oh, here's Action Bastard. NPC programming terribly coded. Lol. Yes. Shiro, they can't form their own opinions. They see anything Trump does and automatically assume it's bad or wrong. Or, in the case of some, they see anything the Israelis or the Jews do and automatically assume it's bad or wrong. Sometimes even a broken clock is right twice a day. I think a lot of people are gripped on one side by Trump derangement syndrome. And some people have let their criticisms and even their dislike of Jews and the Israelis turn into a sort of unreasoning hatred that has clouded their judgment. Which again, I've got my criticisms of the Israelis. Like I said, I don't think it's right that they should be dragging Western powers into conflicts that they need to be taking care of themselves, because they have the money, they have the manpower, they have the firepower. Let them handle it themselves. They want something so badly they can go get it and take care of it themselves, get it sorted themselves. Don't drag the rest of us into a mess of your own making, is my principle. The whole thing that was happening between Israel and Palestine being basically bulldozed over to make room for the Greater Israel project. It's like, all right, not our fight, not our problem. Let the Israelis handle it. An overlay of the Greater Israel map shows inevitable encroachment upon other Middle Eastern countries. You want to expand your borders? All right. Don't spark a war in the Middle East. And if you do, you're on your own. That's my attitude. You want breathing room so badly? You can purchase it yourself. Keyword emphasis on purchase. Much like what the Americans did with Alaska from the Russians. Or the Louisiana Purchase, earlier than that in American history. You want to do annexation via military force, though? My attitude is, you're on your own. You should not expect us to come help you, or support you in any way whatsoever. That really does become your problem and not ours. That is the reality, and we're being inculcated to ignore it intentionally, yes. TDS is real amongst the fools, indeed. But so it is too amongst a lot of the I guess you could call them the anti-Israel crowd, to where it really is turning into something irrational with them that is concerning. And I would say, don't let emotions like that cloud your judgment. You can have your criticisms, but you still need to deal in reality. And sometimes that means short-term victories for people you regard as your enemies. From Zatris, I think we can call her a friend of the community here. I think a lot are worried they may be conscripted to die for Israel, or perhaps they think Mossad has mulled over Trump again to do this. It's mostly just fears from internet schizos, from what I can tell. That about sums it up. A lot of internet schizos being schizo about a lot of things, when they really just need to take a step back and calm down. Breathe. And as some other people have said previously, especially when it comes to anything that the American president does or says, give it about 24, 48 hours, maybe even 72 hours. And then see what happens. Let the dust settle. I don't want anyone conscripted to die in some sort of long, protracted, drawn-out war that seems to only benefit one country, Israel, and enriches the military-industrial complex. Which, make no mistake, that's what happened with the global war on terrorism. With the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The powers that be wanted to do the whole peace without victory bullshit that we saw with Vietnam. They just wanted to drag it out. And then a lot of grifters got in there and said, let's drag it out because it's going to enrich our buddies in the military-industrial complex. And let's keep this whole thing going because we can use it to get re-elected. Or get elected for the first time. It all just turned into a terrible joke. And a lot of good men and women, especially after what we've seen, what happened to both Iraq and Afghanistan, after coalition forces left, for the most part. In large part, I think it's accurate to say that a lot of what they fought for, a lot of what people even died for and bled for, they fought for nothing. It was all in vain. And that's the greatest insult of all. You put that many lives on the line, you damn well better secure the victory. And if not, don't do it. You got no business going in and doing it. Neven, we've reacted to one of her videos before. Good streamer. Just easier to blame Israel. The Iranian regime has been threatening the US for years, murdered its own people in the streets, armed proxies across the region, pushed toward nuclear capabilities. Calling this doing Israel's bidding ignores reality and ignores what Iranians have actually been fighting against. Bonzi down here got a response from Kirsche. Because interests align. Exactly what we've been talking about, chat. Israel has a vested interest in the overthrow of the regime as well, and people like to make the excuse that Israel has a higher control over our government than they actually do. Realistically, there's a part of this that could also be true. People are tired of the forever wars in the Middle East. So the very fact that the president of peace is starting another one, people are going to grasp at influences to blame. There's also the issue that we just bombed them 6 months ago, Now all of a sudden we're going to a full-scale military operation there, with part reasoning for it to be regarding ICBs that could threaten EU countries, as well as foreign military bases. A lot of influencers seem to be not as motivated for America First in a domestic manner, which is what most people focus on. I think that's a pretty good take. To which Kirscher responded, yeah, I don't want another sandbox forever war. Nobody wants that at this point. Nobody wants that. Not anyone sane, anyhow. Feels weird to see an assist to Iran while we're unable to even get around activist judges blocking deportations, massive fraud in multiple states needing to be dealt with, etc. On Venezuela, I was like, okay, clearly they planned this for months. That's why action elsewhere was slower, but now we can focus on home, right? So I'm kind of, well, okay, the Iranian people want this, but why are we there instead of fixing domestic issues? Valid questions. There's still plenty on the home front that needs to be fixed. But I suppose one thing at a time. There was this. Iranian people, especially feminists, wanted the current regime. In fact, left-wingers, especially feminists, fought a revolution to put the current regime in power. This is all true. By claiming the Iranian people don't want it, you're claiming that the wishes of women do not matter. Yes. And? Sure, commies and the useful idiot feminists wanted the regime change in the 70s. Many got slaughtered after, as is typical. Have you not seen any of the protests in current year against the Ayatollah across the entire country? Have you not seen the death toll of these protesters in the thousands? And yes, the wishes of communists don't matter, since their wishes only end in suffering and death. Quite right. Nobody cares what communists think, because communists aren't people. They're just parasites, terrorists, and monsters who need to be dropped from helicopters. And there's a lot of women who do not need to be in politics anymore, and we need to get them out of politics as swiftly as possible. And so many of them just need to shut the fuck up, get back in the kitchen, iron our shirts, and make us a bloody sandwich. Let's see. Here's a white pill. Muslims across the Middle East and beyond reporting dreams of Jesus forgiving their sins, leading to conversions to Christianity. Alleluia. Muslims in the Middle East and other regions are reporting dreams of a man in white, surrounded by light, identified as Jesus, who tells them their sins are forgiven. A 16-year study by Fuller Seminary found 27% of Muslim converts to Christianity experienced such dreams or visions prior to converting, with rates up to 40% in countries like Iran. Whatever works. If this is what it takes to lead people to Christ. To make heaven a much bigger, more crowded place, I am all for it. And it is not without historical precedent either. How many times have we heard of conversion stories of people of other faiths just going about, and then one night, in a dream, Jesus appears to them. And in true fashion, the name above every name, they are humbled. They fall on their face. And so often, they hear your sins are forgiven. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is nigh. something like this, you know that Christianity truly is the one true faith. I love seeing headlines like this. Dreams of Jesus are leading Muslims to Christianity. Good. I hope it leads them all to Christianity. Not just dreams, but signs and wonders. Just anything and everything. That can lead what truly is a backwards people in a backwards region of the world to the one true faith. To embracing Jesus as the Messiah. And to taking that first step down the pathway of righteousness. I welcome it. Heaven is going to become a lot more crowded, and that is worth celebrating. What a wonderful day it will be when whole countries like Iran proclaim to the world, we are Christian nations. We are no longer Muslim nations. We are Christian nations. We are a Christian nation. How wonderful that will be for the entire world. Any step towards Christ is worth celebrating. Absolutely. Absolutely vinyl. Well said. Do they also get hit with the Pippa whitening beam when he absorbs them? It certainly seems like they're getting hit with a holy beam of light. But this is good. Can confirm this happens in America too. After hearing the stories of these dreams, I have an ex-Muslim client from Iraq who told me about his conversion due to having dreams and visions of Jesus. Very moving. Christ is King. Love that. Dominic, thank you for redeeming Not First. Also, hello. Hope springs eternal. Remember, the Middle East used to be majority Christian. Yes. I have faith it will be again. Did you discuss the Iranian supporter doing a bit of terrorism in Texas? No, we have not. We have not. Still trying to get through a lot of these tabs here. We've got footage from Iranians in Sweden celebrating after news breaks that the Ayatollah was killed. This is in Gothenburg. Waving the flags of the old kingdom. Clapping, shouting, dancing. All of which was banned under strict Islamic law. It gets me thinking we really don't know the nature of his return. Maybe he's a dream ghost now. We don't know the nature of Jesus' return. We will never know the hour, nor the day. We may have signs of his return. I think it's accurate to say we are living in the end of days. We've been living in the end of days for a long time. But we have no indication of when or where he will return. And we will never know until it actually happens. which is why Scripture tells us to be ready. It tells us to live our lives as best and as righteously as we possibly can, but to also be ready, because he could come in the next 5 minutes, he could come in the next century, in the next millennia. We don't know, and we will never know. Anyone who claims otherwise, such as these people who buy into the whole rapture theology, or any of that Bible code nonsense, they're engaging in heresies and apostasy. And it is wise that you not listen to them, lest your own soul be in danger. One of my college classmates had parents who escaped the Ayatollah around 79. I feel good for them being able to see this. Yes, I met years back a Persian Jewish family. The daughters were so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I mean, they both looked like they were supermodels. And hearing and seeing the news, I thought about them this weekend, especially how the father and the mother must have felt, because I believe they were old enough, and they too, I believe, escaped the Ayatollah around the same time. I can only imagine the celebrations they must be doing right now. I hope they're doing all right. First time in my life Iran has not had an Ayatollah. Yeah, most of us have no living memory of what it was like when it was a monarchy under the Shah. Eliminating Khomeini's son and grandson removes 2 of the possible successors. I hope they can get the others. Yes, we saw that it's unconfirmed, but the supposed successor to Khomeini was killed less than 24 hours after Khomeini himself was killed. Let's see. We're getting to this footage here. This is from Autism Capital. High-quality footage of an Iranian missile hitting the Palm Hotel in Dubai. This one managed to slip through the defenses. Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, I believe they've got some sort of missile defense system, very similar to the Iron Dome in Israel. But as we saw with Israel, it can catch most of the incoming projectiles, but not all. No sound on this video. Palm Hotel there off in the distance. Still a bit pixelated. It's about the best quality we can get, chat. It's not like the movies. The thing spends all of its fuel and then it just drops to the ground and boom. It's sort of like gunfire itself. It's just a pop and then there's some blood on the ground. Going to celebrate the life and death of the Ayatollah with a cup of tea. Yes, and you can do so by going to thedragonstreasure.com/Lord Rexworth. Save 10% on your order. Wonder if Spoon is salivating over the possibility of a monarchy returning to power. I follow the aristocratic utensil here on X. He's been a bit all over the place with his tweets and his retweets and his quote tweets. I mean, we can take a look here. This was just from 2 minutes ago. They don't talk about liberated Libya at all anymore. That's because they deliberately created a failed state from which to loot. Also the fate of Syria, which has already devolved into further ethnic slaughter. since being liberated. That too seems to be the intended fate of Iran. America is weak, it does not have another Afghanistan or Iraq in it. Strategy of deliberately creating failed states is monstrous. Anti-human, anti-civilization, unfit to rule anything but ashes. Headline from the Human Rights Research Center, The Scandal of a Slave Market in Libya. Dated March 26, 2025. Typical Spoon saw him launching friendly fire at Kirsch and was shaking my head. Yeah. Some people... Look, no one's going to get it right all the time. I admit, I am just an anime person on the internet. I do not have any sort of security clearance. I don't talk with government officials. I am just blathering and giving my opinion. And that opinion could be wrong. I admit that. I could be completely and totally wrong on this. To me, this does not feel like it's going to become any sort of protracted military campaign. That is the vibe I am getting. But, emphasis on the vibe. I am going off the vibes. I could be completely and totally wrong. And if I am wrong, I am wrong. And I will own that. Most of the time I'm not. Most of the time I tend to get it right. But even I am not perfect. So, take everything that you hear from this particular anime person on the internet with a grain of salt. Do your own homework. Do your own research. Don't take what I say too seriously, okay? Because I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I'll admit it. I've been wrong before. I was one of those people that thought this whole coronavirus thing, gonna be over in a couple of months. Once flu season's passed, we're all gonna be back to normal. Well, that didn't age very fucking well, did it? Oh, goddamn planet was turned into an open-air prison camp. So, shows what I know. What a candy ass. Like I said, some people get it wrong. I consider Spoon to be a useful ally of sorts. But I say all of that knowing that, yeah, sometimes he gets some things wrong. He's human, just like the rest of us. He's got to put his trousers on every day, one leg at a time. Do I think he's a bad person? Nah. But he does maybe get some things wrong on occasion. And that's all right. You're allowed to do that because that's human. Bad take. Trump aiming to isolate China, making Iran a failed state would let China retake control. The opposite of what Trump wants. Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think Trump wants Iran to become a failed state. That said, the risk is still there at this current point in time. Iran could still turn into a failed state. That risk is still there. It could turn into another Libya or Syria or Iran or Afghanistan. We hope it doesn't. I think it's less likely to be so, considering that the people want regime change, which other streamers, other VTubers have said, oh no, they don't really want that sort of thing. Basing that off of polls that are not very reliable, they have every incentive to lie because their very lives are at stake. That's not a good take either. But that's okay. Sometimes we all have an ill take. Even me. And I think being humble, being magnanimous about that sort of thing, being gracious, giving people grace, is very important. Quite the forgotten virtues as well. And we would all do well to remember those virtues. Incorrect. You are a noble anime person. More accurate to say, yes, I am a noble anime person. Thank you, Better Old Mercy. Trump will try to do with Iran what he did with Venezuela, keep it functioning and under our thumb so it no longer gives favor to China. I tend to agree with that. I think that's the strategy here. It's leaving a lot of the old ruling apparatus in place, but new leadership, either rising from above or perhaps bringing in Reza Pahlavi, the rightful successor, the pretender to the throne of the late Shah, and installing him as the new Shah, which I would imagine a lot of people in Iran would be in favor of that, of a restoration of the monarchy. I, for one, would welcome that sort of thing. Keep in mind, as we've seen, and as pointed out rather cleverly by Psyop Anime, with their animated recap of what's happened over the weekend, Pahlavi would be primarily an Israeli puppet, but also an American puppet. But, at the very least, he's a puppet that most of the people can get behind. Only the worst political commentators would not leave room for error. Yes, it takes a certain level of arrogance to not leave room for error. Most of the time, as far as my track record goes, I'm pretty good at this sort of thing, at getting it right. But I have been known to be wrong on occasion. Though sometimes it's not so much a case of being wrong as just too early. Calling it too early. Yeah, no, my blood is pure, dude. I was sus of that shit right away. Firmly on the side of we're fighting Israel's war here. If I'm wrong and we don't end up taking a bunch of Iranian refugees in Europe, then more's the better. Yeah. They've got their own country. They need to sort things out there. And as for the ones that are still in Europe and in the UK and in the US and Canada, they need to go back. They need to go back. I thought it'd be over in a few months as well, COVID. Yeah, I think a lot of us thought that. And we thought wrong. Because the ruling elite had other ideas. Because I think they wanted people like Trump gone that desperately. Still glad I never got those shots after all that has come out. Yeah, I never got the shot either. I never did either, and never will. And it was one of those things where they wanted to try and gaslight people into thinking, oh, you had to get the thing in the arm in order to do anything and go anywhere. And it turns out, no, you just sort of had to wait all of that out. And eventually they backed down from all of it because they knew their position was untenable. One of my friends almost died as well as a direct side effect of one of the boosters. He's lucky to be alive. I think it was a heart or valve thing he had, yeah. Yeah, that caused a lot of heart trouble. My parents took the shot, and I'm no doctor, I'm no medical scientist, but I do think it has, at least as far as my mum is concerned, I think it has had a negative effect on her heart, because both of them have heart conditions. But I think my mother especially, it's had an effect on her. Again, I have no evidence. All I have is gut feeling. But my gut feeling has oftentimes proven more right than it has been wrong. And listening to my gut has saved my bacon more times than I can count. Yes, remain joking, but don't cut personal. Exactly, yeah, don't get too personal. So someone claiming that because an X user wasn't based in Iran, they couldn't have a take. Well, that's stupid. Despite the fact the internet is off there and people can flee a totalitarian state. Some people have limited access thanks to Elon Musk doing a supply drop of Starlink nodes that they can use to access the internet via satellite. I think that some of these videos that have been coming out of Iran, safe bet it's due to Starlink that people are receiving copies of these videos and able to distribute them to the rest of the world. Or to use a VPN, of course. Which, by the way, those of you over on the Twitch side of things, should be a link there on the page, twitch.tv/Lord Rexworth. You can do a free trial of NordVPN, one of the best VPNs out there. And you can even save a portion on your subscription there for the time. But yeah, click that link there on the info page. Magellan, that's called the Douglas Murray paradox. Yeah, just because you're not based in Iran doesn't mean you can't have a take on something. That's everyone's entitled to their opinions, even if your opinion might be wrong. Which sometimes people's opinions are objectively wrong. But location's not necessarily a disqualifier. Just because I live in exile in America doesn't mean I can't comment on the absolute state of Britain. Rex, you didn't get the shot. Think how many little old grannies you killed. No, I don't think I will. Shot killed my aunt, almost killed my uncle. Yeah, there's a special place in hell for the people who push those shots. People like Fauci still belong in a prison cell for the rest of his natural life. At this stage, though, it's one of those unfortunate instances where the bad guys got away with it. But we have to take some sort of solace that God will deal with him and them in his own way and at his own time. Both of them suffered lung failure shortly after their boosters. I'm so sorry, Kalergi. That's awful. Grandad was a doctor, drilled in my brain, never take shots of medications that were not fully tested, are still very new. Glad I took his words to heart. I'm glad you listened to your granddad too. Wise man, your granddad. Cheers to Dr. Grandad there. He's a good man. And that's exactly the right advice. Based Grandad Dr. Prince, yeah. Oh no, the VPN box, yes! Got to shill for our sponsors every now and then. I haven't really done that so much lately. I can, though. We've got quite a few. Oh no, it's actually not on the... It's not on the... on the page there on Twitch. But there you go, chat. Over on the Twitch side. Try NordVPN risk-free for 30 days by clicking that link in chat. And also, you might have seen a few minutes ago from Stream Elements, if you love anime and tea, but you absolutely hate the leftist cancel culture, do business with a company that doesn't hate you. Go to thedragonstreasure.com/Lord Rexworth, or just use code Lord Rexworth at checkout. You can save 10% off your entire order. T-Man's got a new one. I'm anxious to try it myself and report back to all of you. Don't know how many of you are fans of Earl Grey tea and fans of green tea. Well, T-Man has figured out a new one. an Earl Grey green tea, bringing two fan bases together, creating an Earl Grey version of green tea. I am quite interested in trying that out. And I encourage all of you to try it out as well, along with his other tea blends, and his soaps, and his powdered drink mixes, everything else that he has on offer at thedragonstreasure.com/Lord Rexworth. Or just use code Lord Rexworth at checkout. It'll take 10% off your order. That is thedragonstreasure.com/Lord Rexworth or code Lord Rexworth at checkout. Save 10%. Thank you. He was a great guy. He also told me Big Pharma was very real and hated it so much. I can imagine the pressure, the things they tried to push on him when he was during his days working as a doctor. I can only imagine. Some of my friends think I'm crazy for saying it's real. Your friends are the crazy ones. Your granddad, he was right. It's amazing how the older you get, you think when you're a wee lad or lass, some of the things your grandparents say or do, you think, oh, that's so silly. We don't need to do that. It's like, the world's not really like that. Come on. And the older you get, the more you realize, yeah, no, they kind of made a lot of sense, and it's easy to see why they did that. Because their own lived experience informed them on that. And they weren't as mad as you thought they were, after all. It's sort of like how the older you get, the more the things that your old racist uncle used to say kind of start to make more sense. But then again, I think it was Rush Limbaugh who once said, as part of his undeniable truths of life, that the collective knowledge and wisdom of seasoned citizens is the greatest untapped resource in our society, or something to that effect. And he was not wrong there. Let's see. Get to that in just a minute. I want to get some of these other tabs cleared out. That was untranslated, but this is video footage where state television in Iran was announcing the death of the Ayatollah. Most people have seen that. I'm not going to play it again. This one could have ended badly. Thank God they shot it down. From Breaking 911, footage shows an Iranian drone being intercepted right over the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Those of you who don't know what that is, chat, the Burj Khalifa is the tallest building in the world. And it was a target of the Iranian regime as part of the retaliation strikes that they tried to launch. Most of them did not get through. This one almost impacted. Hang on, let's watch this. So we see there that flash of light. That's a suicide drone. This is the Burj Khalifa right here, center of your screen. And then, boom. Their version of the Iron Dome got it. And it did not impact. Mercifully. That would have been quite the blow to the Emiratis, and would have been a propaganda victory of sorts for the remnants of the old Iranian regime, or the soon-to-be old Iranian regime. With age comes wisdom and experience, for this is going to be controversial. I used to think it was unfair, my granddad telling me you should take either an IQ test or know politics in order to vote. After seeing the sheer number of idiots able to vote and change our nation, not going to lie, I'm on board with this idea. Yeah, your granddad, he sounds like a smart man. Sort of chap that I would buy him a pint or two at the pub just because I like the old boy and think he's got some good ideas and would just be absolutely enamored listening to all of his stories from the good old days. 828 meters, 830 meters to the tip. Yeah, that is a tall structure, indeed. These are the left ones you to sympathize with. These are the ones the left wants you to sympathize with and claims not to be a terrorist state, targeting a skyscraper like a certain other group, right? It is possible to have multiple bad guys on multiple sides here. Thank you, he would love that. Hope you can see him in heaven. He was a Christian. Good man. Good man. More confirmation from NBC News of what we know already. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is dead. Let's see. Oh, thank God, bullet points here. President Trump announcing Truth Social. Iran's Supreme Leader killed Saturday after the US and Israel launched a pre-dawn assault on the country. Iranian state media later confirmed his death. US launched major combat operations in Iran, joined by Israel. Israel targeted Iranian political and military leaders, while the US aimed to take out Iran's ballistic missile and nuclear programs. Trump urged Iranians to take over your government when the strikes are over. The hour of your freedom is at hand. The Iranian Red Crescent said, I guess that's their equivalent of the Red Cross, said more than 200 people have been killed, roughly 700 others have been injured. Iran responded by firing missiles at Israel, as well as at US bases across the region, in the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan, sending ripples across the Middle East. In an exclusive interview with NBC News, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran was interested in de-escalation and willing to talk if the US and Israel halted attacks. He told Trump regime change was mission impossible. More like mission inevitable at this point, Mr. Foreign Minister. Yeah, you've had it, mate. You're done. Your employers are dead. You might as well just get off a sinking ship. I know you're trying to save face, but you're on a sinking ship, mate. It's time to get off. Check your DMs on Discord, all right? Oh my. What a lovely cake you've baked there, Damien. Do me a favor, Damien. Photos of your confectionery delights and the dinner you prepared. Post those into the food channel over on the Castle Rexworth Discord if you wouldn't mind, please. But those look absolutely delicious. And I should be delighted for you to share photos of those with the rest of the nobles, please. Very good. This year marks the 25th. Yes, that's right. 2026 has been 25 years since the 9/11 attacks. Yeah. I still remember those like they were yesterday. Let's see. More fuckery on the domestic front for the Americans. Democrats and a few Republicans say they will force a vote to limit Trump in Iran. Republicans in Congress largely praising President Trump's strikes on Iran. A few of them join Democrats in saying he needs congressional authorization for war. The president is already acting within his powers. He has the capability to do military action for something between 30 and 90 days. Anything beyond that, yes, he does have to have congressional approval. But as we've seen with what happened in Venezuela, and one would hope what we're seeing here in Iran, we're not going to war here. These are joint operations, joint military operations, and so far, I say this hoping that I'm not cucked by the timeline. So far, it appears this is not shaping up into an all-out war. These are short-term kinetic military actions, and that's about all that they're going to shape up to be. Again, we hope and pray that we're not wrong on this. There is the possibility we will be wrong. If I am wrong on this, then I'm wrong on this. And, hey, sorry. Fucked up, got this one wrong. Sorry about that. But so far, that seems to be the vibe. Again, I'm just an anime man on the internet. Take what I say with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion, bro. The timeline, meanwhile, yeah, boy! Why is the timeline Ainsley Harriet? If Congress actually cared, they'd repeal the various war powers laws. I don't know. Wait, is it a food channel? Might just be a blonde woman again. I believe there's supposed to be a food channel? Maybe? Yes, there is. Down at the bottom, under real life, food and drink. That's where that goes. That's where that goes. I think I would take that salt and sprinkle a few grains of it on my dinner instead. Fair enough. Your opinion is based, though. I don't care if you're an anime man online. Well, I appreciate that, Waka. Thank you. Oh. Yes, this from Raw's Alerts. I saw this footage last night. This is another iconic landmark in the Dubai skyline that we're seeing here. This large skyscraper that looks like it looks like sails on a sailing ship. This is called the Burj Al Arab Hotel. It is widely known as the world's only 7-star rating hotel. It's a very posh and expensive place, chat. Apparently was hit by an Iranian drone, and there's footage showing that the flames rose up from the property, near the ground level. 30 seconds, let's watch this. Looks like... Sounds like a Russian filming this. There we go. That looks like impact shortly before. That's what we're seeing as the aftermath. Grok clarifying the Burj Al Arab has always been a 5-star hotel. 7-star bit, admittedly, marketing hype. Drone impact or not, the sail-shaped icon's taking a hit tonight. Hoping containment's swift and no one's hurt. Let's hope so. No, we're not going to turn off the ad blocker. You'd love that, wouldn't you? You're not going to get it. Saudi leader lobbied Trump to strike Iran despite outwardly favoring diplomacy, a report given to the Times of Israel. US President Donald Trump's decision to strike Iran came after Saudi Arabia's de facto leader lobbied him repeatedly to make the move, according to the Washington Post. The outlet reports, citing 4 unnamed people familiar with the matter, quote, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman made multiple private phone calls to Trump over the past month advocating a US attack despite his public support for a diplomatic solution. That's all we got from that. Now, let's see. More from Visegrad 24 here. Huge crowds of Iranians pouring out into the streets and cities across Iran to celebrate the news of Khomeini's death. This video we're looking at here, 12 seconds from Nurabad, where people are raising Iran's lion and sun flag and chanting Javid Shah, or Long Live the Shah. I'd say that the people of Iran are making their voices quite clear. They want the Shah to come back. They want a restoration of the monarchy. I can get behind that. And it appears both the Americans and the Israelis can get behind that as well. I'm sure Reza Pahlavi wouldn't mind either. He's sort of been training and preparing his whole life for something like that. Let's see, we've got short footage here. Another hotel in Dubai struck by what looks like either an Iranian drone or missile. The Islamic regime in Iran now targeting tourists and committing war crimes. Seems like the Iranian military has adopted a attitude of, if we're going down, we're going to take as many people with us as we possibly can. Reza Pahlavi's Instagram reels just back in January had an average of 30 million views, difference between internet outages in Iran. That itself isn't proof of support, but people are certainly listening what he had to say. Very true, Harold. Very true. Yeah, I mean, for all we know, could be some botted views in there, to be fair. Could be some botted views and bot follows of some kind, but it's undeniable people are paying attention. Found it. Oh, Disco Inferno in the background. Yeah, I suppose we could call it that. Iran has a population of 93 million, comparable to Turkey and Germany, and they do have a lot of people. It's a sizable country, to be sure. Let's see. Oh, we do need to get to this. Someone mentioned it earlier. These images are fairly gruesome, chat. I'm not going to maximize this on the screen, but the American FBI now believes that a mass shooting that occurred at a bar in Austin, Texas, that resulted in the deaths of 3 people and the injuring of 14 is an act of terrorism. Summation from Grok. As of 4:10 p.m. UTC, around 1:59 a.m. Central Time, usually that's considered around the time of last call for most bars in America, a male suspect in a large SUV opened fire outside Buford's Backyard Beer Garden on West 6th Street in downtown Austin. He shot from the vehicle that was parked, then continued on foot with a pistol and a rifle. So far, 2 victims confirmed killed, 14 injured, 3 critically. 3 Austin PD officers returned fire, killing the suspect on scene. In total, 3 dead. The FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force is assisting after evidence in the shooter and in his vehicle showed potential nexus to terrorism. The motive and ID is still unknown, too early, put an FBI agent. The investigation is still ongoing. Scene video shows chaos with officers aiding victims amid blood and debris. Updates expected soon. Same footage here. Got people trying to armchair quarterback all of that. I think I had some tabs saved in my bookmarks. Let's see. I had one somewhere. Oh, before I forget, we should get to these. Shanaka Anselm Pereira, getting retweeted by Pepe Escobar. International source I tend to follow, though sometimes his takes are a bit ice cold or L's. Just heard from Mama Leaf on a stream. It's awful, yeah. Been to that bar before, too. They had a good karaoke night. Last time I went was pre-COVID, though. Yeah, they're going to remain closed for a little while longer, I think, given everything that's happened. This is just an aside. Dubai just shut down. The busiest international airport on Earth closed indefinitely. Dubai International, Al Maktoum International, I believe that's the one in Abu Dhabi, both suspended all operations on February 28th, per official Dubai airport statement. Over 280 flights cancelled, 250 more delayed. The airspace that handles more international passengers than any hub on the planet went dark this morning because Iranian ballistic missiles were flying through it. Now read the airline list and understand the scale of what just broke. Emirates Air, grounded. Etihad, grounded. Qatar Airways, suspended all flights to and from Doha after Qatari airspace closed. Air India, every single flight to every destination in the entire Middle East, suspended indefinitely. Turkish Airlines suspended flights to Bahrain, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Syria, Qatar, and the UAE until at least March 2nd, which that's tomorrow. Lufthansa, Dubai suspended. Air France, Tel Aviv and Beirut suspended. Wizz Air, Israel, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Oman suspended until March 7th. British Airways affected. Virgin Atlantic affected. Japan Airlines affected. Norwegian Air, LOT Polish, Scandinavian Airlines, Aegean, Iberia, Air Arabia, PIA, Saudia, El Algeri, all affected, all grounded or rerouting. This is not a regional disruption. This is the global aviation network breaking at one of its most critical nodes. Dubai is not just an airport, it is the single largest connecting hub between Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Every flight from Mumbai to London, from Singapore to Frankfurt, from Nairobi to New York, that routes through the Gulf is now either cancelled, delayed, or burning extra fuel in 1,000-mile detours around closed airspace. Indigo just suspended flights to Almaty, Baku, Tashkent, and Tbilisi until March 28. Not March 2nd, March 28. A month of Central Asian connectivity erased because Iranian missiles crossed the flight paths. They could decide to reopen anytime before then, so this is not permanent. This is temporary. I'm sure these airlines will be constantly reassessing on the daily, if not by the hour, to see if they can reopen these pathways to air traffic. They'd be foolish not to, because the longer they keep these routes closed, the more money they're losing. And if you're a business, you have every incentive to get these routes back up and running as soon as possible. So, this all sounds very alarmist and dramatic. Important to keep some perspective. Situation's still fluid. Could change at a moment's notice. They mentioned on DR1, Denmark's radio, the state television station here, that Iranian drones may have hit British military facilities in Cyprus. That is possible. They do have that range. And Cyprus, not too far from Iran. It cannot be ruled out that drones might enter NATO countries or airspaces. Yes, also possible. The danger still exists. Iran's leadership might be in ruins, same as the buildings that they were in that were bombed to smithereens, but you've still got some people in the Iranian IRGC who are just trigger happy enough to try and launch these things. So containment will be key over the next few weeks and months. Cost compounding by the hour. Rerouted flights burn more fuel when oil is spiking past $100 a barrel because the same conflict that closed the airspace is threatening the strait that moves 21 million barrels a day. Yes, there was talk that the Iranians were closing the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know if that's still in effect or not. For all we know, they could have backed down and reopened. We'd have to look. Airlines are paying surge prices for fuel to fly longer routes around a war zone that did not exist yesterday morning. Every hour the airspace stays closed, the losses multiply across carriers already operating on thin margins. Here's what nobody's calculating yet. Dubai's economy runs on connectivity, tourism, trade, finance, logistics. All of it depends on DXB being open. The UAE just absorbed an act of war on its sovereign territory with a civilian killed in Abu Dhabi from missile debris. The country that built its entire economic model on being the safe, neutral, connected hub of the Middle East is now closed for business because the country it had no quarrel with fired missiles through its airspace. Iran did not just attack military bases this morning, Iran shut down the economic engine of the Gulf. That is a cost Tehran cannot afford to repay, and the UAE will not forget. I think Trump blew up their ships before they could close it. We had subs in position with the first wave. Let's hope they were successful. Let's see what else this bloke has. I need to give him a follow. He's pretty good. U.S. defense official has told Fox News Pentagon correspondent Jennifer Griffin 4 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers flew round-trip from the United States, dropped dozens of 2,000-pound bombs on underground ballistic missile sites in Iran. All of his posts are like this. He probably uses AI to write much of this. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if it gets him clicks and if he's able to derive some sort of revenue, good on him. IRGC released footage that shows an Iranian air defense system shooting down a U.S. Air Force MQ-9 Reaper drone over Iranian airspace. Pentagon has not confirmed the loss. I mean, they've done this before. It's a drone. They're easily replaced. Yeah, we know that from official CENTCOM reports, USS Abraham Lincoln was not hit by a ballistic missile. I think they shot it down before it could hit them. The UAE voices its firm rejection of the use of the territories of countries in the region as arenas for settling scores or expanding the scope of conflict. 1,200 munitions in 24 hours, 200 fighter jets, 500 targets in the first wave alone. Oh, Harold, thank you for the stretch redeem. A lot of this is just a plug of Substack. Major explosion reported from UAE port side. Anthony Albanese delivered 5 words no other Western leader has said. His passing will not be mourned. To understand why that matters, you need to understand who said it. This is a centre-left Labour Prime Minister, the man who recognised Palestinian statehood, the man Netanyahu publicly branded a weak politician who betrayed Israel, the man who said Netanyahu was in denial about Gaza. That man stood at a podium in Sydney, Australia, and said the killing of a head of state will not be mourned. When a leader who recognized Palestine and expelled Iran's ambassador within the same 12 months tells you a man will not be mourned, that is not alignment, that is independence. Is it, though? I think that's alignment. Seems more like a realignment. Oh, this was the one I wanted to get to. They did not bomb Iran. They waited for Iran's entire leadership to sit down in the same room, and then they bombed Iran. Months of intelligence, thousands of hours of surveillance and signal intercepts, one variable. The moment the supreme leader, the president, and senior military command gathered in a single location at the same time, that moment was 8:15 Saturday morning. Harold, thank you for the line redeem. I mean, it's a good phrase. I do question what lies behind it. I think we all do. It's fair to question all of that. Every previous Israeli strike on Iran came at night. June 2025 launched in darkness. October 2024 after midnight. Iran's entire air defense doctrine is built around the assumption that Israel attacks in the dark. Israel attacked in broad daylight because the target was not infrastructure. The target was a meeting. Reuters confirmed strikes targeted Khamenei and Pezeshkian. CNN confirms months of joint US-Israeli planning. Israeli officials confirmed the strike hit the location where Iran's top officials were gathered. Whether Khamenei was moved before the strike or extracted after is the most consequential unknown on the planet right now. If before, someone inside Tehran's inner circle told Jerusalem when and where the meeting would happen. If after, the strikes hit the room and he survived. Both scenarios are catastrophic for the regime. Because Iran's leadership now knows 3 things. Israel knew where they were meeting. Israel knew when they were meeting. Israel knew who would be in the room. And everything we watched over the past month, the F-22s at Ovda, the tankers at Ben Gurion, Al Udeid emptied to zero, 270 transport flights, all of it was the delivery architecture for one precision strike on one gathering. Every future meeting of Iran's senior leadership now carries one question. Does Israel know about this one too? This is not a military operation. This is the destruction of institutional trust inside a regime. Every general who sits with Khamenei tomorrow will wonder who told Jerusalem about it today. Well, they're not going to sit with Khamenei tomorrow because he's dead. Every IRGC commander who receives a meeting summons will calculate whether attendance is duty or a death sentence. Every secure facility in Tehran has been proven insecure. And the level of paranoia that they had surrounding these meetings, chat, they blindfolded a lot of people and took them to what they thought were secret locations. Almost everyone involved, especially if they were going to be meeting with the Ayatollah, were blindfolded and not permitted to know the route or the location of where they were going for the meeting. Even that could not stop all of this. That sentence structure does say AI wrote this, but the analysis is correct. Yeah, it does kind of smell of AI. It does smell a bit clanky, but it's still good analysis. In June 2025, Israel killed 30 generals in the opening minutes. That was brute force across dispersed targets. This was a scalpel. One meeting, 1 moment, months of patience. Iran fired missiles at 6 countries and in retaliation. Most intercepted. 1 civilian dead from debris in Abu Dhabi. Saudi Arabia responded by pledging all of its capabilities against Iran. The Gulf coalition that did not exist yesterday exists today because Tehran built it by attacking everyone simultaneously. I don't know, that Gulf coalition has been in place for some years now, and in large part it's the efforts of the Trump administration, which is why you see what was once unthinkable, members of the House of Saud being willing to ally with the Israelis to combat terrorism and even the Iranian regime. 10, 15 years ago, that would have been unthinkable. Now, it's happening. Israel traded 1 morning of precision strikes for the permanent destruction of Iran's command cohesion. That is not a battle, that is checkmate, disguised as a first move. That's a good sentence right there. Checkmate disguised as a first move. I like that. Reminds me of the interview where the former president of Iran said he made a security group to find Mossad agents, only for the head of that group and 20 others to turn out being Mossad. Yes, the Mossad, they tend to excel at that sort of thing. They have elevated spycraft to high art. Let's see, let me go back to bookmarks here. Oh, you see this. I believe this is from DW News out of Germany. I think this is supposed to be New York? Blows my mind how at any single moment, for any reason, thousands of leftists can show up instantaneously with foreign flags and signs. Normal people just have to rearrange their entire day to show up anywhere. Are these people just always on call? Yes. Yes, they are. They are paid to do this. Data Republican responding, these are all communists, not just people who are to my left are commies, actual communists. Just search for CUNY internationalist clubs and other names on those signs. Communism is a cult without a god. It demands your entire life and service to them. You are seeing that there are a lot of communists out there who are dedicated to destroying the country. I see a lot of people who need a one-way helicopter ride. Gotta love that foreign CCP funding. Hopefully that's next that we strike a blow against. The Iranian regime was their historical rival in the Gulf political and economically, with there being tensions militarily between the two since the rise of the regime in the 1970s. From what I remember off the top of my head, I'm not a proper source, would advise people to do their own research if they want to, then draw their own conclusions. Understandable, Hero, but I think you might be right about that one. But yes, everyone please do your own homework. Gotta love that foreign CCP funding. As we know, these protesters like anti-ICE are paid by China. Yes. Paid by China, cutouts from various NGOs. You've got another L take on all of this by Chen Gugger. I criticized Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei 1,000 times. He was oppressing his own people and preventing democracy. But here's one thing you can't take away from him. He died on his own 2 feet instead of kneeling to Israel. That took courage. He didn't bow. Alright. He's still fucking dead. You can have all the courage in the world. It amounts to nothing if you're fucking dead. Patrick Casey saying, moderate Democrat here. Are you? Are you really? I don't think you are, Patrick. I think you're LARPing in this tweet. Your pro-Hamas woke nonsense is not welcome in my party. I think he's trolling. We do a bit of trolling here, chat. We do a bit of trolling. Metatron quote tweeting. Cenk, you do understand you could say this about Adolf Hitler, right? Or Stalin. Mussolini didn't bow as far as we know. The devil didn't bow either at this point. Who gives a fuck he did not bow? Like, what? He butchered his own people. Murdered protesters. You say you care about democracy. Here you are praising a literal mass murderer of innocent people in a tyrannical state. Reigned through fear, intimidation, mutilation, burning, killing, repressed freedom, killed sons and daughters, massacred the innocent, committed all sorts of human rights violations, gave zero rights to women. Oh, but I mean, he did not bow. He was stunning and brave, I guess. Unbelievable, you sick fuck. Go back to talking about how bestiality should be legal. Did Cenk actually say that? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he did, but Jesus Christ. Let's see. Let's see, Nachitsumiku putting out his thoughts on the Iranian people wanted a regime change. I believe he was the one who was quoting a poll of dubious origins. Yeah, I think might have gotten this one wrong. Whether the people of Iran wanted intervention is immaterial. Both of y'all are wrong. Talking about both Miku and Kirsha. This is about pragmatic nuclear deterrence. I think that's a fairly good take there. In large part, I mean, we know Iran was pursuing a nuclear weapons program of some kind. And unless you cut off the head of the snake like that, they're still going to keep going back and trying to build nukes. Because this sort of thing is exactly what they feared. Getting regime change, getting that entire leadership taken out. But it wasn't something that they could stop. Let's see. This from Black Dumpling. Friend of the stream, leaders are gone, the regimes are not, which is an interesting development. What if the new strategy isn't regime change per se, but we will gank the guy at the top until the guy at the top does what we tell him to do? We don't need to change the whole regime, just keep killing one guy till everyone beneath him gets the message. Interesting reply here. My Marine ROTC instructor told us a story from Vietnam about a sniper who would take a couple of shots every day and hit a guy every now and then. They bombed the first two guys, but the third guy didn't hit anyone. He took shots to satisfy his superiors, but he also learned the lesson. Jack Larry Correa's reply to Cenk here. He fact-checks him brutally. Oh, does he? Let's go back to that. Where is it? There we go. Lara Luma, we don't care about what she has to say. Oh, here we go. Do you ever get tired of being a piece of shit? I don't think Cenk ever does, no. He's doing the bit that he's paid to do. Grok, run an analysis looking at all statements ever made by Cenk Uygur and reply with a single number, summarized in the number of times he publicly criticized former Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei. And Grok responds, after searching Cenk Uygur's X post, TYT episodes, interviews, and web archives, zero verifiable instances of him directly naming and criticizing Khamenei personally prior to today's post. General regime critiques on human rights appeared a handful of times, 2022 protest coverage, but focuses overwhelmingly on opposing US-Israeli intervention. The 1,000 times claim lacks supporting evidence and reads as rhetorical. Well, there you have it. Would prefer a more shadowy intervention in China to minimize global economic impact. It'd have to be swift, but the impact important. Who knows? Who knows? American military? Allied militaries? The intelligence community? They could be planning something for all we know. A number of factions in the CCP, such as the Tsinghua clique, are reportedly reformist, leaning towards a freer, less regulated economy. I mean, if they're the ones to take out Winnie the Pooh, and if the West can do business with them, I suppose anything's possible then. They want transition to a less ideological but still centralized regime without giving up traditional principles and morality in pursuing westernization. They kind of want to have the cake and eat it too, from the sound of it. Don't know if that is realistic or even possible, but I salute them for trying, and I hope they are successful. Sorry for the amount of comments. It's quite all right. It's quite all right. The more comments, the better. The more I hear from chat, from my nobles, the better. I encourage it. I dream of the day that I have a chat that is just so frenetic and so full of activity that I can't really keep up with it. We'll get there. We will get there. Anything moving away from communism that isn't moving towards similarly bad setups is good in my book in regards to China, as it opens up the possibility of change. Yes. If I had to, when I was studying in China as part of my international study program, it was something I had to try to convey in as coded language as possible. I couldn't come out and say it directly, but was always laudatory towards academics, professors, and students for learning about free market capitalism, things like that, but trying as subtly as I could to convey that, yes, you people need to really shake off your oppressive communist origins and join the rest of the world, because this communism stuff is just not going to work for you long term. If it gets taken out, I would say currently the most likely way it goes out is like Jiang Zemin. Maybe. Maybe. At that point, we need to call chat the parliament. Maybe. It's possible, Mercy. It's possible. Rex asking us to spam the chat with ducks. You can if you like. Or the wiggly emoji. Or any of my other emojis that are in there. I think those are available for anyone who subscribes, which, hey, if you feel so inclined, please do so. Obviously, take care of your normal expenses and don't blow your last few pennies on a VTuber. Be responsible, please, but every little bit helps, and it helps towards upgrading and further monetizing the channels. Yeah, that's a spirit. We like to see the wiggly. That was my very first emoji. I love the little Poplio wiggly that is based off of. And when the Twitch channel was first monetized, I knew exactly what sort of emoji I wanted to be my first one. I wanted it to be the wiggly. And so it was. I commissioned someone to make a wiggly emoji based off of my character model. And there you have it. Oh, this from Firas Madad, from podcaster Lotus Eaters. An Iranian Shahed, I think that's either a drone or a missile, has just struck a UAE oil platform in the Persian Gulf. This was from 6 hours ago. If the Iranians start attacking energy this soon, this would mean that they're trying to cause as much pain as quickly as possible to force an end to the war. I think it's a bit too early to still call this a war, but whatever. They're going immediately for the Samson Option. Those of you who don't know what the Samson Option is, Israel has what's known as the Samson Option, which is basically, if they're going down, they're going to take as many people with them. It's end of the world type scenario, and we pray it never comes to something like that. The Iranians can hit critical nodes like Abqaiq or Habshan, crippling the Saudi Emirati oil industry. They can hit Kuwait at will with a similar effect. So how to read this attack? It is a signal they will go up the value chain and strike more important energy facilities. They are threatening to burn the entire region to the ground, including its energy, if the war continues. They want to maximize the pressure on the global economy. China has almost 1 billion barrels of oil in stockpile. It imports 11.5 million barrels per day, half coming from the Middle East through Hormuz. China can survive this. Europe is screwed as it cut itself off from Russia. America produces its own oil but does have large imports. The Iranians are saying they will wreck the entire world economy before surrendering. Samson Option. They'll try. It remains to be seen whether they will actually succeed. Yeah, the Samson Option is basically a kamikaze button. Pretty much break the pillars, make the temple come down, roof and walls on top of them, and everyone else they can reach with their ballistic weaponry. Yes. Named after Samson in the Bible. Luke Rudkowski trying to make a meme, but showing that the left can't meme. Dick Riders with no morals. No, I think that's you, Luke. Victus Thrax, quote, tweeting, a joint operation is not a new war, Luke. You know that. And being a disingenuous retard because you think the US can magically be a hegemonic power without ever exerting it is a libertarian delusion. The right always fight themselves over stupid shit instead of fighting the left. Yeah, those in the right that are willing to instigate pointless fights like this, more than likely they are controlled opposition. And they need to be purged from the movement. Oh, this from Right Angle News Network. British man on holiday in Dubai, going viral after an Iranian drone flew through his apartment window while he was drinking his morning tea. Didn't even get to finish my cup of tea.
Doing it. No joking, guys. We have just been hit by a drone. We heard it coming. It stinks of oil in here.
What is the bloody thing?
We've just been hit by a drone. We've just been hit by a drone. I didn't even finish my oil in here. I didn't even finish my cup of tea. We've just been hit by a drone. We're in Water 1 on the top floor. 19th floor. We're off. Doing it.
Yeah, I'd be off too. Not exactly the kindest of good mornings. Immediately following confirmation of the death of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, leftists with pre-made hands-off Iran signs have converged on the White House. Crazy how it's always that sign. Beginning today, every liberal is an expert on US-Israeli-Iran relations. Don't worry, their pre-printed signs should be arriving shortly. Communists have been using the same hands-off rhetoric for nearly a century. In the grand old tradition of Lee Harvey Oswald, who we can't forget was a filthy communist. A lot of people are talking about how Trump wants to give Greenlanders $1 million each to join America. Funnily enough, back in 2014, China offered us literal tens of billions in exchange for opening up Greenland for resource development by Chinese state firms, which would have seen them paying for government expenditures, build public projects and infrastructure on our behalf, provide labor and pay salaries for any potentially affected Danish labor and industries naturally were declined, not for any loyalty to NATO principles of sovereignty, but because of environmental concerns and labor safety standards. Yeah, with the Chinese in particular, they have no regard for environmental concerns, and labor safety standards are a foreign concept to them. So, yeah, you're right to turn them down. Let's see, more footage of Iranian citizens taken to the streets, dancing, praising President Trump's response to the joint US and Israeli military operation against Iran. China Road and Railroad Company, or CRAC 7, I think the company was called, the same one involved in motorway building back in 2010 in the Congo. Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of that is tofu construction. I'm sure a lot of that has fallen apart, both from the shoddy efforts of the Chinese, but also the fact that Africans don't know how to take care of their shit. IDF announcing all senior terrorist leaders of Iran's axis of terror have been eliminated. So, ladies and gentlemen, they got them. Many people forget that a lot of Islamic regimes evolved from communist and socialist movements in those countries, sponsored by the Soviet Union. Their rise to power was entirely unnatural, as well as NGOs at the time. Yeah, a lot of people intentionally made to forget, because a lot of the same leftists have infiltrated the institutions and write the history books. Well, yes, these aren't just Islamic regimes, these are also communist regimes. And as we say and as we know, the only good communist is a dead communist. Anyone that's ever been involved in infrastructure in Africa knows they'll steal side view mirrors and copper radios, CDs, etc. Not because they want to sell them or use them, but because it's normal. Yeah, that's just a way of life over there, unfortunately. And yes, we do use the term normal advisedly.